Hi, my name is Anna Purrier, and I'm an early childhood doctoral student at the University of Montana. Today, I'll be sharing with you how the teachers at the Learning and Belonging Preschool have been implementing project based learning with our 3, 4, and 5-year olds. Our students come to school 4 days a week for only 3 hours, so that can be a challenge when implementing project based learning. In addition, our students are pre and emergent readers and writers. So often people think, how does that even work? How do you do project based learning when the children are not readers or writers and that they need direction in learning and how to be independent learners? Well, we dove into this research and looked for a consistent approach that would um, document the process of implementing PBL with these young learners, as well as showcasing the thinking and creativity of our young learners. So we went through the PDSA Plan, Do, Study Act as educators and as we implemented PBL with our young learners. We first thought about, so we kind of did our own PBL as grown-ups while also implementing PBL within the classroom. We thought about how do we plan PBL while honoring children's interests, and then how do we document that learning so that the students and children take ownership of that learning and sharing it with others. We participated in training over the summer. We committed to implementing key components of PBL, such as having a driving question that is up, having documentation of the learning process, either through webs or through KWL charts that also had pictures that supported the students. We wanted to really be sure that we had the freedom to go in the direction that the children wanted to go in as we um, investigated driving questions within the classroom. So we implemented our first PBL in the fall, and had a shared driving question. It was, how can we create and share our classroom community? We chose this as a whole group. There are 3 teachers within the lab preschool, and we wanted to do a PBL that was already written. And so our training came from early childhood PBL, and these wonderful authors and trainers have some pre created project based learning for early childhood, preschool, and kindergarten level of implementation. So we investigated and we chose the classroom community because that is what we do at the beginning of the year, anyways. So each of the 3 classrooms went about it in their own way. Everybody had a documentation web that you can see here, and it was all about community. And so different parts of the community were explored. We were located on a campus, and so one classroom did tours of our building and made maps of our building. All 3 classrooms went on explorations around the university to see what characteristics of the university community could we learn and share with others. And then we also talked about our homes, where we come from, because that is just so important to 3, 4, and 5-year olds of, this is who I am, this is my family, this is my home, this is what I want people to know about me and my family. And so here on the web, we talked about different areas. We have pictures to support the wording. Again, thinking about how 3, 4, and 5-year olds are emergent readers and writers, having those pictures to go along with that was very beneficial. We looked at different types of homes. We took pictures of our homes and brought them into school so that we could compare and contrast how our homes look the same and how they look different. We checked in as a team on Fridays to see how everything was going. This was our first go around with PBL. There were some difficulties, but honestly, our students were very, very engaged in this learning. They loved sharing about their pets, and they loved sharing about the restaurants they love to go to within town. We looked at maps and how to use maps in our town and just in the classroom. One anecdotal note I have from that is we had many different maps out in the classroom, and when the children were in free play, they created a map for Santa. This was towards the end of our project, and it was close to Christmas time. And so Santa needed a map of where to find different houses and places in Missoula. So we heard those conversations happening in their free play time. We had the public demonstration, which was our families coming into family night. And one classroom decided, the children decided they wanted to have a museum displaying all of their work. We had self portraits, we had maps, we had stories about their houses and their families. And so you can see here there was artwork included here of welcoming our families to the museum. And then we had our self portraits here. Another classroom built their houses out of cardboard and had furniture placed in them. And so that was collaborative work where the children worked together to build a house, um, thinking about how structures are made and what was important to share with their families. Overall, we learned a lot through this process the first time through. Um, it takes a lot of, for educators working with preschool students, it takes a lot of pre thought, just like if you were doing a PBL with high school students or late elementary students. A lot of pre thinking of how to ask questions to get the information from the students. We also found that doing a KWL chart or doing the charting of our learning on the web was difficult to do whole group. And so we started working to have that learning happen in small group and that documentation happen in small group. So then it was a success. We learned a lot in that first go around. Our students, our children learned so much and became a real class family and community during that time. So we decided to move forward and try another project based learning unit. We had received funding to buy a play structure for our playground. And so, as a community, we had the shared driving question of how can we create a dramatic play structure for our playground? Again, we had different ways of implementing our project depending on where our children were going, where where we as teachers felt comfortable going as well. There was lots of shared planning in our staff room, and so our children spent a good amount of time learning about sturdy structures, measurement. Um, what did we want in our playhouse? What did we want it to look like? And so here you'll see a small group looking at the area that was determined the playhouse would go through lots of conversations with the adults in charge of the project, with the children, talking about where the placement would be. So there was measurement here of the area that would take and the perimeter of the air space that would hold our play structure. And this was integrated into our play as well. We had construction, real hammers, we had screwdrivers, we had blocks, and we had costuming available to all students so they could be those construction workers. We all committed to using this sturdy structure anchor chart. That was a commitment that all teachers made to help support our children in learning what a sturdy structure is and what needs to go with that. It really developed their vocabulary vocabulary that all teachers have found the children using, even now that we're out of the unit. They're talking about sturdy structures and having balance when we're outside and we have tires being stacked up. They talked about it, that being sturdy. They talked about snowmen when we were building snowmen, about how they needed supports for different parts of the building of the snowman, so the snowman or snow person would be sturdy. So when we explored how to make sturdy structures, we talked about how triangles and which shapes would be the most sturdy. So we made triangles and put them together, and teamwork and collaboration around having a sturdy structure. A key component of early childhood education is having loose parts. So we provided loose parts to the children in all classrooms to see how they could create structures using these seemingly random parts. And again, we heard that vocabulary coming out in the sturdy structure from talking about sturdy structures. One classroom went in the direction of looking at what the interior would look like in the playhouse. One of the parents came in, bringing in those community partners. A parent came in who's an interior designer, and they talked about how different fabrics and colors help the aesthetics of a playhouse. And the children created their own areas, own aesthetic playhouse. And when it really came down to it, because it was we had funding for a certain kind of playhouse, we showed the children structures. We talked about things that we would want in our playhouse and the important parts, and then they voted on a structure that they would like. So this project is on pause at the moment because we're waiting for the structure to come. It takes time. But the children are so excited to have a new play structure that they helped learn about and choose. So, again, with preschool learners, you are able to do PBL and do lots of learning. So, our next step then was to start making our own PBL. And so on our own. And so we each are working on an individual project here as the school year is coming to an end. We end relatively shortly. So one classroom is looking at how can we write and illustrate our own books, which was came about because some children already had their own books, and all the other children wanted their own books. Another classroom really loves animals and pets, and so they're looking at how to take care of pets. And then the third classroom are looking at how to take care of protect wild animals, mainly now focused on birds and insects, as that's what the children are so excited about now that spring is somewhat sprung here in Montana. And so some of that documentation going on is here we have the classroom looking at how we've progressed in what we've learned this year. Know, wonder, and learn boards, where the teacher uses these boards in small groups and moves the cards along as they learn. They have the driving question. Our documentation for the children that they are really engaged in is coming along in the classrooms as well. Um, they are able to tell the story of their learning to the other adults that come in the classroom, which is what we want. We want empowered learners. And these 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are doing a magnificent job with this. And here we're getting more complex with our anchor charts. We, as the teachers, are still investigating and researching on how to best use these anchor charts for these young learners. However, the children love them and do refer back to them. Here we'll see two parts of the writing one. When 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are emergent writers, we need to give them the tools to know that they are writers no matter how their writing looks. And so this is an anchor chart used in that classroom to support those students. And this is more investigation on how all people are illustrators and writers. So that was a very brief summary of using PBL in early childhood. I thank you for coming to this very brief presentation. Again, my name is Anna Purrier. I'm an early childhood doctoral student at the University of Montana. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about how PBL works in an early childhood multi age classroom. Thank you.